Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you're all doing okay, and great to see that you've all joined on time. So thank you very much. It is over 1 week into Hacktoberfest, and I have seen various challenges with open source, and I'd love to have a grown-up conversation with everyone and see how we can learn from each other's experiences and people can share tips. So I was keen to bring you up on stage, so please do request to come up on stage and let's have a conversation. My notifications on GitHub have definitely increased over the last 9 days since Oktoberfest started, which has been awesome. We've had some really good contributions. We haven't really had much spam, which has been brilliant, but definitely a lot more notifications. And I'd love to hear how everyone's open source Hacktoberfest is going. So do come up and share what projects you're working on, what challenges, any questions, any tips. It's a really chilled Monday conversation. Great to see Mirinol, Vishal, Wiz. Great to see you all here. Okay, and people are requesting to come up, so super excited to hear from you all. Give me some reactions and make sure you're all awake on this fine Hacktoberfest day. Sahil, thank you so much for coming up on stage. Over to you. Let us know any questions, tips you'd like to share. You're muted if you're speaking, but we can come back to you in a bit if you need a minute to sort yourself out. Thanks everyone for the reactions. Great to see you all awake. Okay, we'll come back to you. Let us know. Put your hand up, Sahil, when you're ready to come up on stage. Augustine, awesome to see you here. I see we get to see some new faces as well. Great. So, what open source projects are people working on? Do share in the thread if you can't talk now. I appreciate some of you. You might have to be at work or you can't talk. Then do share in the thread, and I'll try to keep an eye on it as well. Hopefully, we don't get any Twitter Spaces bugs today. I see Mikkel and Chrissy have also joined as well. I know we created quite a few good first issues. We did actually have someone have a question today in Discord saying, can they get notified when good first issues are created? And I did say to them that they can watch the project, therefore they'll get notifications about the project. But to be honest, I actually don't think it's needed. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on this. I actually don't think even if there was a specific way to get a specific notification on a good first issue, I actually don't think it's useful because after you've done kind of one or two good first issues, you should really move on to more challenging tasks. Not necessarily massive or really big, but just a little bit more than a good first issue. I guess a good first issue is called a good first issue. So you might do it once or twice, but it's almost like, I suppose, tutorial hell. If you keep doing good first issues, then maybe there is something we can call good first issue hell, where you kind of just keep doing that and you don't kind of stretch yourself, you don't challenge yourself. But I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on that. I see we got Mirinol on stage. Over to you.
Oh, hey Eddie, thanks for letting me in. I am really enjoying Hacktoberfest and it's going really well. I maintain this project called Occam, as some of you know, and we've accepted over 100 contributions in the last week. It's been very exciting, lots of fun, but I'm also here just to listen to everybody's challenges and maybe share some thoughts on how we could make it all better.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming to support. Really, really appreciate that. And 100 pull requests in a week is amazing. So how many? Maybe I can ask you some questions while we're waiting for people to come up on stage. Maybe I can ask you some questions. How many maintainers do you have on the project?
So we have a team of about 10 people, but we essentially, in preparation for Hacktoberfest, kind of set up like a 2 people a week type of rotation, where every week 2 people on the team are paying attention to everything that's going on Hacktoberfest wise, and everybody else is just doing what they normally do on the team. So that's kind of the setup.
I like it. Very, very organized. That's great. And are they working full time on the project, or is this in addition to their day job?
No, they're working full time on the project.
Okay, that's great. That's yeah, really good. Like I'm still like shocked. 100 pull requests in a week. That's really, really impressive. I really, really like the sound of that. And were those good first issues, or were they a mixture?
They were a mixture, and it was definitely, I want to say, about 80% good first issues. A few that were that didn't involve code and mostly involved sort of gathering feedback, and a few that were more involved, like a few hundred lines of code type of scale.
That's uh that's great to hear. So I have another question. Until we're waiting for people to come up on stage, I know some people are having some technical issues. Sahil, every time I say accept for you to come up on stage, I get an error on the Twitter space saying can't add you. Never seen that error before, so I'm not sure why that is the case. Um, Hopefully we don't have that issue with other people as well. Yeah, some other questions is, yeah, what sort of challenges do you have on the project? Do you have challenges like creating good first issues, or maybe getting too many notifications, or people fighting over the same issue? And by fighting, I don't mean, in a bad way, but well, it's not a good way, but like not in a rude way, but just, you know, people raising pull requests for issues that aren't assigned to them. I'd love to hear some of the challenges you have and see what overlaps we have.
Last year there was a lot of that. This year, not so much. Like, there's, um, I don't know, maybe we've figured out a pattern where we like immediately assign the issue to whoever first comments. Um, there's definitely less kind of spammy type of behavior. There's been like one or two unrelated comments or anything like that, but mostly no. It's been pretty well organized. The main challenge was writing up all the issues, right? So we did the work a few weeks before Hacktoberfest started, and that meant, you know, one, coming up with something simple, two, writing it up in a way that a new person. Sorry, I'm walking our dog. It's early in the morning, and she decided to fight with some other dog. Yeah, so a lot of the work was essentially just preparing all the issues, and making it so that they're easy for new people to pick up and contribute with.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, that sounds good. So it's definitely well organized. Um, and what sort of community events are you doing? Are you doing any like community calls or anything like that? Be interested to know because it seems really well organized. I'm interested to know what you're doing and what works. And have you tried anything that didn't work maybe and you're no longer doing that?
I'm mostly going to other people's community events, and a few other people on our team are doing that as well. So it's mostly just like, hey, wherever people are gathering to discuss Hacktoberfest, we're showing up there and saying, hey, our project also has some issues. If you're interested in exploring this type of um, things to build. And we haven't hosted anything of our own. There's obviously our Discord where we're having active discussions and helping new people, but no events hosted by us.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds like you're keeping super focused, so I really like that, and it seems to be working well. Have you noticed an increase? If you've noticed an increase in pull requests, have you noticed an increase in usage, an increase in stars? It'd be interesting to know what other metrics have changed during October.
Um, Stars a little bit, but not a lot. Like, actually, I think more people have contributed than more stars have shown up. So it'd be nice if everyone sort of participating would also star the repo, because it helps in like various different ways. But so only a little bit of an uptick in stars. A lot more people showing up on our Discord because they have questions to ask. So there's a lot of that. Um, and then pull requests. So yeah, it's all been sort of healthy conversation like activity.
Awesome. And I've just pinned your repo
Oh, thank
to,
you.
or one of your tweets about your repo to the top. So hopefully people can go check it out and give it a star as well. Um, okay, sounds good. Yeah, we actually, one thing that we did that really helped us, and we just did this like only a few days ago. And on top of our website, we actually put star our repo as like a really thin banner along the top. We saw it on someone else's project, and that really helped increase the stars. So we were probably getting, I don't know, like 10 per day, and now we must be getting, I don't know, 20 or 30 per day. So
Oh, that's
I
pretty
don't know if
cool.
you've done
Yeah,
something like that,
that's
but
something to try. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
yeah, if you do try it, keep an eye on the stats and let us know, or let me know how it goes. We're interested to know if it does have a a positive effect, something noticeable on your stars. I think that would be interesting to know because then that could be a tip that we could share and say it has worked on multiple repos. Because at the moment I've only kind of got one metric mine, but it'd be interesting to know if it helps other people as well. I think people just forget to star, and like you said, it does support the project in so many ways and doesn't cost anyone anything. So
Yeah, that's really good
yeah,
advice. Actually, thinking about that, one thing that has worked this time around is whenever someone leaves their first comment on an issue, in I have like a saved reply where we say, hey, thanks for your interest. We're assigning the issue to you, and in that comment is also a link to our Discord. Um, and that has worked in I'm assuming helping the new people kind of find their way around and ask questions, and helping us kind of gather the group and help them. Because earlier, what would happen is people would ask questions in like various different venues, and now a lot of that conversation is either the issue itself or Discord, which is a lot easier to manage.
No, it makes sense. I've just pinned one of the tweets I did, I think like a week ago, which was actually the stats on GitHub on kind of visits to the repo and so forth. And we did notice an increase during October. So but I'll be interested to know how if you saw a bump in your stats as well. I'm guessing with 100 pull requests being submitted and merged, then I'm guessing uh, you would see a good jump in the stats as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I will check it out and share ours depending on what's going on.
Awesome, sounds good. Right, I'm gonna pass the mic over, and let's hear from. Hopefully, I pronounce your name okay. Arav. Arav, let us know how your Hacktoberfest is going and any challenges you have, and if any of us can help.
Hey, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, first of all, Eddie, I'm a big fan of yours. And my Hacktoberfest is going fine, but I would like to mention one thing like right now I'm contributing in some small projects. When I shift to the big projects, like they have many issues like 1K or 2K issues are open there. So how to get those issues assigned? Like as we all know, to get into any project, first we need to start from a good first issue. But when we check for the good first issue, all the issues are assigned. So how to conquer that, like how to get issue assigned to yourself.
That's a really good question. We did touch on this right at the beginning, and I think a lot of people hadn't joined them, so it's good that you're bringing this up. You're right. Good
Yeah,
first issue is a great place to start on a project, um, but then really you don't just want to do good first issues. You want to level up and do other issues, but you don't want to choose an issue that is really big and really involved because you want to set yourself up to succeed and you want to challenge yourself kind of that 10 or 20%, but you don't want to challenge
yeah,
yourself kind of 90% and then you're really stuck. And the more time you spend on the project, the more you learn about it, the more you'll kind of network and kind of make friends on the project. And you also when the community members and the contributors and the maintainers know you're around, you're there to kind of stick around and not just to get a green square. They're also going to invest more time in you as well. So
yeah,
yeah, I would read the issue and try and get the next level. One thing we do on the biodrop repo is we actually put points
yeah,
against our issues. So again, the people looking at the issue won't know, how complex 3 points is, or 2 points, or 5 points, and they're not meant
yeah,
to. but the thing they're meant to know is if they've just completed a good first issue that's 1 point, the next issue they could get is 2 points. And then the next
yeah,
time round, they could move to 3 points and they could kind of keep going up. And if they have more time, they could next time jump
yeah,
to 5 points. But if that
yeah,
week they're busy with work or family or whatever they're doing, they could drop down to a 2 point because they realize that they haven't got that much time. So that's what
yeah.
we do. I'm hopefully encourage other projects to do it. I'm gonna pass the mic over to Mirinal. Mirinal's experienced in this area as well, and probably could share some good tips too.
I love that system, Eddie. We don't have that yet, but it's definitely something I've been thinking out about as well. But in the meantime, to talk about Arav's question, the uh, the thing that I feel is underused is simply go and wherever the open source project is having its discussions, whether it's on GitHub or on Discord, just go and say, hey, I am interested in contributing more. What can I help with? Just that question will pretty much in every project I think at least my experience has been will get you a response where the maintainers would go, hey, we're looking for someone who could do this thing. Are you able to help there or something like that, right? So like the maintainers are also juggling a bunch of things and often um, just expressing the fact that you're interested in contributing more
Yeah.
gives them ideas around, oh, how could we um, uh, utilize the help this person has just offered. So just ask the question.
So, so what I need to do is that like stick to that organization. Like after commenting, I need to look up upon the other issues and how the organization is working on
Yeah,
something like
just
that.
bigger repos which have lots of issues on them. Like just go
Yeah,
in wherever they're having the discussion, go, hey, can I take up this specific issue, it looks interesting to me, or go, hey, I don't know which issue to pick up but I'm interested in contributing more, I have some time, what could I contribute, right? And if
yeah,
you just ask the question, I'm certain people will try to help.
yeah. Thank you very much. I will try to implement it.
Thank you for the question, and let us know how it goes, and we'll host more
Yeah.
Twitter Spaces and live streams, and you can ask follow-up questions and let us know how it goes. Thank
And
you very
and one
much.
more thing, I still remember that video that you posted on, I think on Free Code Camp, how to do your first open source contribution today. That day I started my open source journey. So thank you for that.
Oh wow, thank you so much for that great feedback. I really appreciate it. I've done loads more videos since then on my YouTube channel that are probably a bit more up to date. So go check them out. And if I've missed anything, let me know. I can create more videos. So I'm always
Yeah,
always always keen to hear ideas from people. So let me know.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you. So we've got some more people up on stage as well. So we have Chrissy. Chrissy, Mike, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Chrissy. I'm one of the maintainers at Links Hub. It's basically a site where you can get your resources for all your tech needs, whether it's a course or a framework that you want to learn or basically an app that you want to use to build something. Anything you want, we got it. Um, this has been my first Hacktoberfest, and I've learned a lot through this experience, especially on the maintainer side. One is that a lot of contributors, especially the first time ones, tend to struggle with filling out the PR form effectively. So it really taught me the importance of patience and to always remember what it's like to make your first contribution, because I know once you become a maintainer you kind of lose sight of that and you kind of get like a little annoyed with like mistakes here and there, so you working years kind of like humbles you a little bit, so yeah.
Thanks, Chrissy. Yeah, it's important for people to do both sides, contribute and also be a maintainer. I think because they get to appreciate both sides. I think people's pull request descriptions improve once they become a maintainer because they'll get to see pull requests coming in, and they'll think, oh, they haven't. This doesn't make it's not complete. Something's missing. Maybe I have some questions, and the questions go back and forth. But it definitely helps. Or reviewing other people's pull requests. I think you don't even have to be a maintainer. You can review other people's pull requests, and we can learn a lot from that. Um, there's I can't think of their name now, but they're not in the audience. I'm just having a look. I remember their profile picture, but they raised an amazing pull request and issue, and I was like, wow, I wish I could write an issue and a pull request like that. They actually gave so many details. So there's a pull request I want to raise tomorrow or today or tomorrow, and I want to try and raise it the same as well because I was just really impressed how they gave steps on how to replicate, how to test, and explain their technical decisions and all the rest. So I thought it was brilliant. We've also got on stage is Kelvin. Kelvin, over to you. Thanks for joining on stage.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eddie, for this space and for bringing me up. Really love, of course, I'm a big fan of everything you do for open source. And hi, Chrissy. Hi, everyone else here. So open source challenges. So I've recently became like, I've been doing open source for a while, like on the low, just, maintaining a couple of packages here and there. But I've been working on two big projects so far this year when I became the lead maintainer of Sales.js, which is an MVC framework for the JavaScript, akin to Rails or Laravel, and then the Boring JavaScript stack, which is also built on Sales and some other tech as well. So it's been really interesting. The I think I made a PR for Sales, which is so we had this update from a MongoDB driver. So there's something called Sales Mongo, which lets you connect Sales and MongoDB. So the driver is on version 6. The one we currently have is on version 3. So you could see how far back that has been. So having to work on that PR and that's just having to like communicate with the community and move something that is of course going to be like a broken change and also have it very healthy. And it was so nice. I just made a tweet about how the community was just sending in their feedback and their kudos and seeing that vibrant nature of open source. And even though it took us so long to get to this point, it wasn't toxic. It was all love and it was really, really good. So I think one thing I would like to say is we all should remember there are people at both sides, both the maintainers and also the contributors or the users. And at the end of the day, it doesn't cost you too much to be a nice person on the internet, really. I've seen issues where folks get really bitter and complain. And I get of course, I get it. You're using this at work or it's something you really care about. You get passionate. Some heat, things getting heated. But at the end of the day, we're all people and we're just here to have fun. Like Edu would say, make it positive and make it all good. And I really enjoy that healthy spirit in open source. Yeah.
Also, I'm just looking at your tweet about it. Thank you so much for sharing it in the thread as well. And you're absolutely right. It's open source is more about collaboration than code, and we need to have patience and empathy and so on. We all have days when we have good and bad days, but you're absolutely right. We definitely need to make sure we keep it friendly, and because these are people that that are just like us. They're in the community, and we might work with them even closer one day. But awesome PR, by the way. That's great. I really, really like that. Thank you so much for sharing. So we've got some more people on stage. For those who want to speak, if you could put your hands up, and then we can go round. And if anyone else wants to request to come up as well, it'd be great to have you on stage while I'm waiting for people to put their hands up. I want to give a few more shout outs. I see Void has joined, Rajnesh, Mikkel, Helen. Awesome to have you all here. Zara, Ego. Everyone go check out people on stage, but also people in the audience as well. Go drop some follows. I'm doing the same as well. Abhay, over to you.
Hey Eddie,
Hi.
am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, hey Eddie, it's a big shout out to you and Hacktoberfest for giving us all an opportunity for contributing to open source. From I know my journey with open source, I learned about how to contribute to big code bases and with how to start with documentation part and many more things. I recently currently know that I've been started my open source while I watched your two videos how to contribute to big code bases. From there, I got learned about how to use Git and GitHub. Using those, I firstly used to contribute into your projects like Linktree and Biodrop. And after that, right now, first, I'm growing as a maintainer in open source and building up my projects as an open source collaborations and many more to go. It's a big shout out to Hacktoberfest and you, Eddie.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you sounds like you're doing great, and yeah, I really appreciate you watching my content. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions? Anything you want? Anything else you would like to share? If not, that's fine. I really appreciate the support and shout out.
No doubts.
Okay, thank you so much. I will pass the mic on. I think next hand up was Rosemary. Rosemary, over to you.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you. It's so good to be in the space. I'm new to open source, very new. I haven't started a project. So my question is for you, Eddie, and anyone else that would love to chime in. And I just want to first shout out Kirsty. She's been very helpful to me, and we met through Eddie. So thank you. But my question is for a beginner. I want to get started like this week to hop into the Hacktoberfest. I've never done a project yet. So Eddie, I know you answered this question probably a million times, but what are some beginner advice for like someone like me who's new to just totally this whole arena of open source, never done a project before? What would you suggest? Because I want to not necessarily say do it the right way, but that's the only words that's coming to formulate what I'm trying to say is I want to document my process is what I'm saying. Like I want to be able to, once I get started, get this choo-choo train going this week, I want to be able to like, oh, okay, at least, I look back and say, okay, I started this day. This is what I did. I did this, whatever steps that I take. I just want to be able to look back over my journey next year and be like, oh my gosh, look at little Rosemary. Look at what all you've done, and be able to show others a portfolio instead of just doing stuff and learning stuff, but then all I'm doing is learning but not implementing, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna stop there. I just wanted to clarify my question and thank you all already because I know y'all give a lot of value. I follow 95% of y'all in the space, so I appreciate you all, and I yield the mic there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. It's a really good question. I think it's important because I'm sure other people in the audience will want to hear this as well. And actually, I'm going to pass the mic over to some other people because I think it'd be good to. I talk so much, about this. I think it'd be good to hear other people's perspectives as well. And I'm happy to share mine as well. I love talking, especially when it's about open source. So yeah, this is a really good question, and I love it that you're going to document it for yourself, but also I know it's going to help other people as well. So this is perfect. Okay, I see some hands up. We're going to go to the hands that are on this topic. So Chrissy, is your hand up for this topic?
Sure,
It is okay. Over to you.
Yeah. Hey, Rosemary. I think a good tip for that is to one, find a project that aligns with what you're interested in. So, say you're interested in social justice or whatnot. You'd find a project that focuses on that topic and how to get there. You ask colleagues, you read content on Twitter, um, ask people in online coding communities that you're in, and then once you find that project, you can you can do two things. One, look at the project and point out, okay, it has this part, but there's something missing there. And then if you um, find a solution to that particular thing, you can raise it in the issues tab, or you can go through the issues tab and find an issue that aligns with your skill set. So, say I go to that particular social justice project and notice that the documentation is particularly off. And knowing me, I'm interested in documentation. So I go over to that issues tab, raise that issue, and say, hey, I think adding this information would help users better use whatever social justice related thing that they're doing. Um, and as far as like documenting your process, this is something that I've been doing. I go on a Google Doc and just write about the things that I've done so far and the challenges that I faced in doing that part and how I overcome it or how I plan on overcoming it, and then put it all in a blog post. Or if you don't like blogging, you can just do it on a LinkedIn article or a LinkedIn post. Just share your knowledge. I hope this helps. I've said a lot.
Yes, absolutely, per usual. I appreciate that, especially with the interest, and particularly if you checked out my bio, I'm like so infused with AI right now and automation. So, thank you for that. So I'll probably try to find um, projects that are geared towards that. So thank you, and everything else you said was awesome.
We've got a few more hands for you, Rosemary. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for sharing. I think it was Kelvin next. It's on the same topic. Is that correct, Kelvin?
Yeah, for sure, Eddie.
Perfect. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I really like getting started with open source question because it's something I've heard a lot, and I'm just going to say how I think about it. In order to get started with open source, you probably want to first of all start from a place of your interest, just like Chrissy said. And the biggest thing you could do as a beginner to open source is understanding of said interest. So I know the activity is to like, have to make an issue, have to make a PR, but when you take out the time to really understand the chosen open source you said you want to contribute to, which by the way should be something you use and you really want to grow, because like I always say, open source is leverage for you to 10x your skill set as an engineer, or even more than that, right? So you, for example, I use React, for example, right? The biggest thing I could do for my open source, like to get started quickly, is to understand React above average. So that's mean reading, that's mean studying, that's mean writing. All right. Because if you skip that, you're not going to contribute in depth because you don't really understand it as well. Right. So this understanding would be shown in you using it, writing a lot of code, and from that point on, one thing you must know is contributing code is not the only way to do open source, right? I said there are two parts of open source the tech and open source the community. So if you can't contribute to the tech yet, you could contribute to the community by enriching it. That means you documenting it by tweeting about it. And when you tell someone about an open source tech, you are actually contributing to open source because you're evangelizing. So, like, if you know me, I'm a fanboy for Sales View and any tech I use that I like, I'm always talking about it. So that's always the first part. All right. And the second bit is you folks get. So the second bit is you helping folks get unblocked by you answering their questions in the community, and that's going to do two things for you. Can you still hear me, Eddie? I have a comment.
You
Yeah,
went in. You went out when you was about to go into your 1 and 2 points.
Yeah, thank you. So I had a call coming. So yeah, one, you get to understand the tech because there's you could first of all get it to the understanding of the tech in theory by reading the docs and practicing that. But in the real world, you get to see different use cases of how people are using it. So that gets to make you know the tech in the context of actual reward use case. I really like that way by you being in their Discord, seeing the places that people are having issues with. And even if you don't know it, you could research. So it's sharpening your skill with actual reward use case. Okay, so that's it. And two, you get to be seen in the community as someone who's contributing by helping people get unstocked or unblocked. All right, so that's the way I think you should definitely get started. And like I said, the sweetest part of open source is the source code. If you're brave, I'm not so sure you should be scared of it, but a part of your education is to go read the years of experience people have put into this source code for these projects. And even if you get confused, it's fine, but just dive into the source code and understand it. Follow issue threads or PR threads. They also will help you to like see the thought processes, because just being in the conversation and just trying to glean what you can would also really help you. Okay, so the very first way, like I said, if you can contribute to the tech, contribute to the community, write articles, write tweets, do videos if you can. Then start also contributing to the ecosystem. You could make your own packages, or you could help make other packages that are supporting the tech to be better. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you so much for that detailed reply. It's great to hear different people's perspectives. I think it just adds so much value, which is why I love starting the conversation, and I love hearing everyone's feedback. Thank you so much for that. Mirinor, is it on the same topic?
Yeah, same topic, and I'll keep it really,
Perfect.
really quick. Chrissy and Calvin had really, really good advice. That was fantastic. I just want to add one quick point, which is from a project maintainer's point of view, documentation has two audiences, right? So there's the end user that I'm documenting for to make sure they can use the thing we're building. And then there's the other contributors or future readers or future me that I'm documenting for, so that in the future or new in the future and learn, right? So that second kind of documentation, really great place to start contributing to open source, right? So if you take an open source project, you're now even before you get started, you're already the intended audience of that type of documentation. And it starts with the contributor guide, which can be like the place you sort of get to know the project a little bit. If you don't understand something in the contributor guide, that's a good piece of feedback to share with the maintainers of the project, because oftentimes the maintainers don't realize that that piece of information is missing from the guide, right? Because it's a lot to write up. And so that's a good piece to share. Another piece that I think Kelvin hinted at a little bit, if you pick any one source file in the entire code base of some project and you go, I'm going to spend today just understanding what's going on in this one file. Files are broken down into modules and functions. You could even go take it a step further and go, I'm going to spend my entire day just understanding this one function and what's going on in this function. And at the end of that, if you go, hey, I now understand this function, so I will just write up a paragraph about what this function does and post it as a pull request or as a blog post or somewhere, and ask the maintainers, hey, is this the right understanding? Or you don't understand the function, and then you can just go back to wherever the project is having its discussion, go, hey, I don't understand this function. What is it supposed to do? Can you help me understand it? And in the process, the maintainer would end up creating some documentation, right? And then the final piece of this puzzle is, well, eventually all functions should have tests. And so if the function has tests, then that's already a tool for you to help understand the function. But if the function doesn't have tests,
the first place to contribute is then write that test, right? And so all of this is like a really bite-sized way of starting to contribute. So that'd be a place I'd suggest to look.
So many great tips. I do want to highlight a couple that I think people could get started with like today. One is the tests. I guarantee you, just like documentation's quite often missing gaps, tests are definitely missing gaps. And also things like with front end projects, they might use storybook. So just kind of rendering the components and let you play with it in isolation. They'll be really out of date. Trust me, I know they are on BioDrop as well. And these are a great way to add value to the project. And the maintainers in the community will love you for it. It's a great way to get familiar with the project as well. So yeah, have a look at that. And I always say this, but I want to say it again because I think it's really important. I think Miranol mentioned it as well. If you're new to a project, that is the value that you can really add is giving feedback on the documentation, on terminology. Is someone using an acronym or a term that isn't clear, isn't obvious? It's something that is maybe specific to that project or specific to a certain field. Ask that question, and then the project can even have a glossary or can write the full word. For example, I was speaking to a client today from the US, and they used a term I'd never heard of before. And you're probably all going to laugh. You probably all know what it means, but I had no idea. I had to Google it, and they said, I can't remember how they put it in the sentence, but they said they used the word audible. Like we've done something audible. I'm like, but I don't. This was in a message. I was like, but I don't see an audio file. And I'm thinking of the Amazon Audible audiobooks. So I Googled it, and it's something to do with American football, I think, where they changed the play, make a last minute decision. But that had to be stumped for quite a while, and I bet you most documentation has something similar where it's something specific. So yeah, if something isn't clear, ask a question because people on the project miss these things, and with your help and feedback, they can be improved for the next person. So that's kind of like a superpower that new people to a project have, and I always tell people to use it to their advantage. It's not a disadvantage; it's an advantage being new to open source or new to tech or new to a project. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic over to Chrissy, and then we're going to go on to Ayo Bami afterwards. Chrissy, over to you.
Thank you, Eddie. Your example just brought up a really good point. It's when it comes to documentation, you want to make sure that you're writing it in a way that is not dominant of one culture. Because like you just said, they use the term audible, and in the UK it means something different to that of in America. So it's important to be culturally inclusive as possible. Um, so yeah, don't just assume that you put one analogy to describe something that everybody else in the world views it that same way. Um, so just try to be as inclusive as possible.
Thanks, Chrissy. Rosemary, I hope that helps. If you have any more follow-up questions, do let us know now or later. I think it's great to have these questions. It's how we can improve our thinking on how to make it better. Hopefully, I want to pronounce this name
Thank
correct.
you.
Oh, you're welcome, Rosemary. Thank you again for coming up and asking that question. I know it's helped other people in the audience as well. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing this name correctly. Ayobami, did I pronounce that okay?
Ayobami is okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you for having me, and I am excited to be here today. And normally, I have had the chance to contribute to open source project like Firefox Debugger. But at this point in time, something is different. I have a project I am currently working on, like an open source project. So I'm going to be the maintainer, and I don't have that experience. So I only contributed to big projects, but I have not maintained any projects like that before. So at this point in time, I am building a project that is focusing on building something important. So I just want to ask a question. When you are getting started with an open source project, How do you bring people together to, actually be willing to contribute to the open source? Because I think that any project, you know, you can't force people to do what they don't want to do. It has to come from their mind. And so I'm just asking from those who have been doing such for a long period of time, how do you go about that in your own experience? So thank you for having me.
This is a great question, and I think so many projects, struggle with this, especially at the beginning as well. I'm just going to share a short thought on it, and then I'll pass the mic over. It actually ties into what we were talking about before, when to Rosemary's question, is documenting the journey of the project. People want to feel part of something, and they also want to kind of see a story of it. So if you, as you work on the project, if you've learned something, share it. It could be a blog post, it could be a video, it could be a tweet. If you struggled with something, if you're stuck, share it. I think being authentic is really important, and then people will think, oh, what's this project about? Let me go have a look. I think it takes, they need to see and hear the project a few times. I think from what I heard this from a YouTube video once, I don't know how true it is, but maybe 6 times is what I remember. They need to hear or see about it 6 times before they think, you know what, let me actually go check it out, and then go have a look at the repo, and then they might star it and they might get involved. And so you obviously don't want to spam lots about it, but I think if you're sharing your journey and your adventures, it just comes across as authentic. And then people are interested to see your successes, your failures, your challenges, and all that fun stuff, and they'll want to get involved. But I'll pass the mic over, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. So, Kelvin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eddie. So this is a good question, and I think it's fresh on my mind because I've been on this. So on two different projects. The first one is sales, like being the lead maintainer of sales, and it's the first time. Okay, I've been the maintainer of my little packages I'm working, but at this scale, at the size of sales, leading such a project, it's sometimes scary, right? Because it's legacy, there's so much, and like Ayobami's question, like how do you get folks to contribute? And for me, I don't really think first on contribution, I think on usage, because people would contribute to what they use and what they find value in, right? So what you should be thinking of, what are who are these people that this project is for? All right. And once you've been able to identify those people, the other thing is making it as frictionless as possible for them to do said contribution. And that's where we're talking about docs. We're talking about an easy issue and PR process and just clear communication. So I'll give you an example. With the Sales Mongo update that I did it in the weekend, and like what Eddie said, you have to document. So in my usual style, I documented every single thing from the issue first. Then in the pull request, I was just talking about it in on GitHub and also on Twitter. So I had several people pitching from the community who were interested. Like I said, the use case and value. They were so interested in the project and they want to see the PR succeed, even if they can't actually submit a PR to my PR. We actually hopped on the Discord for them to even help me solve like a very serious issue, and we just kept going even till yesterday. And up till now, people are still chiming in on that PR. People are checking out the PR to test it out because, like I said, use and interest. Okay, so once you get to that point and you make it easy for them to like chime in, and of course, like I always say, you have to be positive, you have to be polite, you have to make it welcoming, right? Make it welcoming. So if you go on GitHub and check that PR, you see how the conversations were going. Even when there were bugs, you see how it was communicated. Everything was just open and transparent and just inviting and welcoming. So everyone would want to participate. Even those that were not contributing code, they were just giving kudos. Hey, great job. I really want to see this land. So that kind of open source spirit, it's going to take a while to foster. It only fosters when you yourself as the maintainer, you are the one that is pushing for it. and you're also making sure that the environment is healthy. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kelvin. I love it. You're right. You got to foster, a safe and welcoming environment, which is really hard and takes time. I think it's something that takes a while to do, but it's worth investing the time. Toby, your hand is up. Is it on this topic or is it a new topic?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, it's on this topic. Can you hear me before I
Yeah,
continue?
we can hear you. Go ahead, and after that, we'll go to Mart. Over to you.
Yeah, awesome. Good question, Ayobami. And yeah, this is actually the part of being a maintainer or owning a project that might be kind of tricky. Because when you're starting your project, it's just you there starting it out. You have what you want to build in your mind and how it would work in your mind. But obviously, the person standing next to you does not know what you're trying to do. But maybe they can figure it out if they try to maybe go through your code or something, or go through your project in general to see, okay, this is what this person is trying to build and stuff. But essentially, I would suggest is that what Eddie and Kelvin have said. It's more about documenting what you're working on. Start with that first. Then from there you build a community around it. But how do you actually build a community around something? You build in public, because building in public, people notice you. People say, okay, this guy's working on this stuff and he's always making noise about it and always talking about it a lot. So let's see what he's actually working on. Maybe from there people might pick people's interest, and maybe somebody that has like the skills or to actually make some amazing contributions will be like, oh, have you thought of this, have you thought of this? And from there it starts like growing. It's a very slow growth at first, but if your project becomes big, it just skyrockets and blows up and stuff. I remember onboarding on Million. It took me like a week or something to try to go through what the project was about, to even try to understand it. And then from there I went on to reading docs, getting familiar with how the technology worked and all those things. And from there it now made sense to me. I was like, okay, this is amazing. From there it made my work easier as a Million, because when I understood the technology, I could now tell it to somebody else and explain that, okay, this is how this and this works. If you're looking for something here, go here. You're looking for something, go there. So all these things, it's sort of, and if you're doing it in public, sort of like creates this what would I say, inclusiveness, as Chrissy mentioned, to people, and people get interested. And pretty much I think that's my point. My point is more about building in public, one, and then two, documenting a lot and also talking about it uh uh every opportunity here, but don't make it seem like you're just doing aggressive marketing, because that's like that's a pitfall. Yeah. Yeah, aggressive marketing is the pitfall it eventually boils down to, because if you're talking about something too much, you just people get bored. Yeah, even everyone gets bored. Nobody here can say they don't get bored. So yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
It's true, and I mean those are all great points. And one thing I'd like to add, which you made me think of, is as a if we create a project that's a safe project, an inclusive project, as everyone suggested, then the other people who get involved in the project, not necessarily committing code, it could be improving the docs, improving tests, whatever it is, they will share and learn in public themselves, and therefore kind of the marketing team, as it were, I'm doing air quotes here, grows with it. Chrissy's always shouting out multiple projects that she's a maintainer on, or projects that she contributes to, and so forth. And other people do that as well, if they have a good experience on the project, which is why I think it's so important for people to not try and grow too fast, and try and work with the people on the project, automate things, improve the onboarding process, the offboarding process if they're a maintainer as well. It's all really really important things. Love that discussion. That's awesome. I hope this is recorded. It is recorded. Okay, because I'll need to listen through it and make some notes. I hope that that helps, Aobami. Let us know how the project goes. We look forward to seeing how the project goes, and any other questions and challenges you have as you work on the project. Okay, over to Mark. Mark, thank you so much for being waiting patiently. Over to you.
Okay. Good evening. So, concerning Ayobami case. First of all, what I would like to contribute is if you are starting out a new project, you should apply the KISS pattern, which is keep it simple and stupid to an extent, in the sense that in your documentation when you are starting, nobody actually have the idea. According to what Toby have said, it's only you that know what you want to build. Yeah, because then there's no technology that have not been built before, but you are the one that know the exceptions of what you want to build. So once you keep it simple, the technical terms you are using in the documentation are simple, easy to go with. You have a proper. I feel first of all, starting, don't just start coding, don't just start writing. Document the roadmap. Have a roadmap, a roadmap of okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, this is the milestone, this is the long term goal, and every other thing. So that if I can check it out and get to understand this, I will be able to know if it's something I want to contribute to and how I will contribute to it. And also there's something that people who are starting to make their project open source do. They build the product to MVP and then open it and make it open source. Then giving another developer the stress of sitting down to read the product. If the person doesn't actually love this product, the person will not actually sit down to do that. So just starting from the day one when the project is starting from the first line of code, let it be open. So because then some people can keep, like, this is what happened in bow drop project. I guess that's what they started, because then during that period I could not contribute. I was busy with some other things. They kept the code open from dog till wherever you see the code. Nothing was built, everything was empty. So, and then it gave room for everybody, even.
Oh, Mark, we just lost you there.
That to be a very very nice that would be a very very nice are you guys here?
You keep dropping in and out.
Are you guys hearing? Ah,
I think you're
I
back
can't.
now.
Are you guys hearing me now?
I think, yeah, I think we can hear you now.
Eh? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Mark's having some technical issues, but yes, open source from day one. I mean, that's just so important. As soon as you create that repo, as soon as you do get in it, if you do it that way, whatever you do, just even if you just got a README, definitely open source from day one. Use the issues, use the labels, use the pull requests, even if it's just you. That's such a good advice, Mark. Thank you so much. Mirinor, your hands up. Over to you.
Thank you, Eddie. There were some really good points from everyone. I just wanted to add like one quick thing. I think people resonate with problems more so than solutions. So actually, you can start building a community around a problem even before you've come up with a solution. Let's say there's a problem you want to solve. You have some ideas for what the solution could look like. You can already, whether it's on GitHub, in a blog post, wherever, you can start gathering people around the problem itself. I remember early days of Occam, I would go to lots of meetups and just go, hey, this problem's really gnarly and hard. Someone should solve it. And before we even started writing our first line of code, there were already several people we used to have a shared Slack at the time, in our Slack, just discussing the various related things around the problem. So I feel a great place to start is just to go, hey, this is a hard problem, don't you think? And a lot of times people will agree. They're like, yep, this is hard and someone should solve it. It's very painful.
It's so true, and I like how you said, discuss the problem before kind of you start working on it, and it could be on Slack or Discord or wherever it is, or on GitHub. I think that's really important. I wanted to do custom domains for BioDrop, and I know we've been talking about it for a while now. And Krish is in the audience, who shared some resources and some example projects that he had done on how he did it, and that was super helpful when I actually got onto this over the weekend. So having that discussion beforehand is super helpful, because, like you said, you can flush out other ideas. People might be aware of things. Or they can share some resources. So when you do come to work on it, you're not looking around for those resources. You kind of got them there ready. You can kind of hit the ground running. That's such an important point that I don't think we discuss enough. I actually really like that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Mart, you're back. Over to you. I don't know if you want to continue the conversation.
Okay, pertaining to sorry for my network, that was a break in transmission. Um, Relating to where I stopped. So after creating the project and everything, making it open, then also have a community, get a community of people. Yeah, you can have come to Twitter, talk about it, host a space, discuss the problem with people. Let's see how many people are interested. Because then, if it's not just starting something, if the project is ain't going to solve any issue, then sorry, you are going to be working on your project alone, or then people are going to go there and do a playground on it. So we have to the audience, people who are going to contribute to it, are people who contribute to code, are the people who are actually using it. First of all, if I'm not using a project, I don't see any need of spending 2 weeks, 2 hours trying to improve the project of no use. But if I'm making use of the project, or if I'm going to make use of the project, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time trying to invest in the project. So get people to talk about it, create your own community around it. You can go to other communities map, let them know. Like for instance now, Meta GPT is the project I'm currently contributing to. What happened was, if you go to Meta GPT, um you see a documentation of the roadmap in MetaGPT, the proper documentation of the short term, long term, so you know where they are going to. And then that was one. Then another, that was like that was easy for me as a person to like get into contributing, because when I saw, okay, I love this project, I see where they are going to, I was able to know what to do and want to improve. And then you have to also sacrifice time as a maintainer for, because then there's this, once a project is growing, there's supposed to be this minimal communication between the contributors and the maintainers, because then it's only large project that you don't expect that minimal this and that, in such a way that if your project is growing, if I drop a pull request, I expect a fast growing project to get a reply. At least, even if you are not merging the project, tell me reason. You don't discourage the community. You like tell the person, oh, this is one of the reasons why I should not be merging this project, and these are the reasons why I should be merging this project, or these are these. And then you can also get other people who are coming to the project to assist you in that, in doing reviews and all those things. And that will be much easier for you. And congrats and for what you are doing. Although I'm still trying to get started with some of my own projects anyways. So congrats, and you definitely make it. Talk about it on Twitter. We are all here to support you and build with you. So as to, provided it's solving humanity issues, we are here for you.
Thank you so much, Mart. I love that. I like how you ended that with we're all here to support each other. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate all the support people give to me and others as well on GitHub, on Twitter here. But now talking about support, now Graham's on stage. I think we all need to go and leave. I'm just joking, Graham. Over to you, and Ego's on stage as well. Great to have you here. Let's switch to Graham, and then Ego, we'll come to you afterwards.
Thank you, Eddie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, all you beautiful people and fellow monsters. First of all, if you're looking for support, you're right, Eddie. Asking for me to come up on stage is a terrible idea. I'm here to tear you all down, not to lift you all up. Oh no, oh no. The exact opposite of the mentality of open source. But I have come with a question, and that is, Mark was mentioning roadmaps and everything. And I was thinking about how many projects I see that, because obviously the whole point of open source is to be collaborative and to listen to the community and everything else, that lose their way. Where do you, or how do you find the balance between listening to the needs of the community, but also maintaining a vision and where is the balance in that? How do you actually make sure that a project's going to be successful and doesn't become a kitchen sink of everybody's wandering thoughts that then becomes useless to everybody instead of being useful to some people?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, to be honest, we'll discuss it a bit now, but I actually think we should actually have a dedicated Twitter space on that subject because I think it's such an important subject and a really difficult one. You're right. You don't want to turn people's ideas down for one reason. Two, it might be a good idea, but might not be the right time to do it on the project, or it might slightly be off topic or on the fence, and someone might say, "Oh, I like it, but does it make sense here? Should it be a separate project, library, whatever it is?" I know I've had a lot of those discussions on BioDrop. I actually did a poll recently about what what feature should we build next, and I had my feature was there. I didn't tell anyone which one it was, and I thought it was going to win, and it came last by quite a long way. So it's the project isn't about what I want. I suppose it's about what people want, but you need to find that balance as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. I think it's important for projects to say, no, thank you, not for now. Maybe you could have a label that says future discussion, which is what we've got. And then sometimes you just got to say no as well, because otherwise you start collecting issues as well, and it distracts people. They might discuss about it, but if it's something that the project doesn't really want in the next, I don't know, 12 months, then probably should be closed. And there's project boards for that. You can have future ideas. I know we've got project boards where we've just, dropping lots of ideas on there, but they're not actual issues. So they're not kind of polluting is a harsh word, but for lack of a better word, polluting our kind of issues, tasks that we want to do over the next kind of 6 months, something like that. But that's a really interesting question. Like I said, I think that could be a dedicated Twitter space on that. I think that would be really interesting to get some maintainers up on stage to discuss how they handle it and their challenges. So yes, Graham, we'll talk about it now, but we'll do a dedicated one on that, I think, as well. Kelvin, your hand is up. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eddie. Graham, this is as usual you and your spicy questions, but this is a really interesting question. And so this is how I think about it, right? And this is the part we don't get to talk too much about because we're all inclusive and all that. But at the end of the day, most of open source is not a democracy; it's a benevolent dictatorship. And I, I actually it took a while to get grip of the fact that it's open source and the maintainer of the project or the creator most often has the final say of what get into the project for a couple of reasons, right? First of all, at the end of the day, as an open source contributor, you may come and go, but the maintainer always have to bear the burden for as long as the project is alive. So whether you like it or not, if they are telling you no, I don't think you should feel bad about it. It's because they are the ones that have a skin in the game because they are the one that will have to come when you bring like a 6,000 line PR. They have to make sure that it's not going to regress anything, or it's a nightmare, right? Like you bring code that wasn't tested, there was no test written, and you expect it to be merged because why, it's open source, but it doesn't really work like that. And I have had to say no more often. In fact, sometimes when I do say no, my stomach hurt because I know a lot of work has been put into the PR, but for the long-term benefit of the project, it's not going to work. And that is also, it also shows quality for you as a maintainer because the ability for you to say no to almost not everything, but almost everything, especially the ones that are good. Like there are some good ideas, but it wouldn't serve. Right? Like I've heard Taylor Otwell had to reject a lot of PR because even though the ideas are great, but for the project right now, they don't need it. All right. So yeah, saying no is really, really important. And I heard Sarah Drasner once joked about this on stage. She was like, my project, my rule. and it was meant to be a joke, but that's how open source should be perceived as. Because I don't want to say it's entitled, but sometimes when you make a suggestion and it's not taken, it's as if it has to be because it's open source. Not really, right? Like the non-spoken agreement is that the maintainer has the final say. You could suggest, and that's just what it is. They're just suggestions. Whether they're good or bad, they're going to be like, okay, yes, this is going to enter for X, Y, Z reason. Because, like I said, they're going to be the one to maintain it. You're going to come and go. Like I've seen projects where you come for like today, then we see you the next year. Who's going to maintain the 6,000 lines of code you brought in? The project owner, right? So they have to make sure that for their sanity, they don't just accept everything in, because it's very easy to bring in some new fancy feature, but the maintenance, that's the real thing. Like when something gets broken, when there's an edge cases, the maintainer does not understand the code you've written, so now they are destitute because you're nowhere to be found. You're going to come 1 year later, so it's just going to hurt the entire code base at the end of the day. So yeah, it's benevolent dictatorship is not a democracy. Yeah. Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks for sharing. You're right. The maintainers of the project will have to look after the changes in the code. So you're right. It needs to be a balance, and it's interesting what the balance is. And every project will have a different balance. Let's say. So again, I think that's such an important discussion. We can see what people do on their projects, and then we can all learn from it. Uh, I think next hand up was Mart, and then we'll go Miranol. So Mart, over to you.
Okay, Garland, we got first of all, this question is very, very tactical because then you have to deal with emotions and then deal with feelings. First of all, it's called open source project, not field source project. So if you want it to be, they say lack of planning is planning to fail. So before you start any project, you have a goal. As I said, roadmap. You have what you want to achieve in 10 years. For a maintainer or a project who knows what he wants, you should know where the project should be in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So you have that documented out in your brain or written out. Is bringing a code to the project. No, and then telling the person no doesn't no, just not telling the person, you can refer the person back.
Mart, we keep losing you. You keep dropping in and out. We can't hear you. Are you able to maybe rejoin and try again?
Yes, hear you now.
Try again. Let's hear.
Hello,
Can you hear us?
I'm hearing.
Okay. Continue. Over to you.
Okay, you are hearing me now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said you have to having your roadmap documented. So at the end of the day, when the person bring a code to your code base and then you don't like it, you can tell the person, oh please, sorry, no, this code is not in the roadmap. But then you cannot just tell people no, because then the word no is not a nice thing. So no, please, this is the roadmap, or this is the guide, or this is what we are working, or this is what we are working towards. This is what we are working towards. So the person will know. For instance, now taking an example, let's look at Python as a whole. When you install Python, for people that use Python, you have pre-install package, and you have another external package that you could install. Why didn't Python could just add all this external package as pre-install package, but then Python refused to add this external package as pre-install because they feel maybe this package is not in line with Python. But then you as a third party can decide to add this as your pre-install package. So if the person so much like his code or want to do anything, that's why it's called open source. You have the source code, clone it, clone the source code, add your code to it, and use it if that feature is so much important to you. But if the feature is not in line with the with what because this all now talk about the vision, so that it will not be a fail source project, it will be a open source project that is going to be beneficiary to everyone. Since if this code is not in line with your vision, no need of accepting the code. I've written an open source, I've written a I think 40 something line of code to a particular project before, and then when I submitted it, I got a no, and they were like, okay, this is the owner had to like tell me this was the roadmap. I read through it. My code wasn't. At a point, I just noticed that this code wasn't going to make any effect on this project. It was not going to work. I accepted it. So no contributor should see that as a bad idea. Also, even trying to maintain any relationship is you. First of all, that's why I say thousands of projects don't have roadmap. We don't get to see that. Please, that should be included. We should see roadmap. What are you working towards? Because if I don't know where, if I cannot see in your future, if you have not written something down for me to see in it, I cannot work in your light if you don't point the torch for me to work in your light. Everybody have different future. So I might come and see your project, no roadmap. Okay, let me just start doing my thing. But if there's a roadmap and I understand the roadmap properly, I think I will not be able to add things that are not in line with the roadmap. So then, no is good. At the end of the day, no is good.
And I think it's important for people to raise issues before they do any work, and then therefore that way, no, the minimal amount of time is wasted. I know it takes time to raise raise a good issue, but it's better than actually trying to make the changes and then finding out that the project doesn't want it. So I think that's super important. I see lots of hands up. Before we go on to those hands, I'm going to use my host powers, and I'm going to jump to Ego, because Ego's been coming up on stage a few times but has technical issues, I think, and keeps dropping off. So Ego, you're on stage. Over to you. It'd be great to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I think I just want to draw us back to beginners in this space. And I think for us, it's different actually. And we just want to get our hands on projects, especially real life projects. And like someone mentioned earlier, for the Good First project, I think Good First issues, I think it's like there's a tsunami of persons waiting to jump into it. And before you know, everybody is grabbing it. So it's almost not there. And I know we've mentioned, I think this conversation is getting too very technical for us beginners, and that's why I wanted to bring it down for us so we can actually have a say in this conversation as well. For when we're looking out for projects, we're not looking out for our interest. We're just looking to get our hands on something on real life projects. We're looking, for example, for me, I'm looking out for, say, JavaScript, any JavaScript project, or say React to contribute to, because that is where I am. I want to gain more expertise there. I want to grow and I want to learn more. I think we don't have that what's it called? That luxury of picking out project and say I have this project and this is the one I'm going to work on. And it's not because we don't want to, it's because so many times you clone project. There are some projects that are very complex. And for beginners like us, when you clone those kind of projects, it's like you're almost lost. Almost immediately you're even lost, to find your way around it and all that. So we just go for this project that we can start with, something we can work with. I think for us, that is what is more important to us. Let us just start off something. Eventually we'll get our hands on the bigger project. But right now, I don't think we have that luxury because we don't have that experience or exposure to contribute to those kind of projects. So for beginners, the conversation is different for us. We're looking out for beginner friendly kind of projects. We're looking to get our hands on experience. We're looking to get our hands on real time or real life experience. That's why we can settle for what we're settling for. And it's not basically because we're just settling, like I said, we're still learning. We're on a learning path. It's the learning part for us. That's what we're pursuing. So we don't have that. I just wanted to bring up that conversation because I heard it mentioned severally where you're like, we're going to look for projects that we have interest in. And it's not like I said, it's not like we don't want to look for those kind of projects, but those kind of projects might be complex for us because of where we are. So we're starting off on this part, looking out for this kind of project that we can actually understand, or even if we want to go for that, because I know I clone many projects and have to do research and all that. So I work on a project and then bow drop and then 3 points, and I started off with one and I jumped to three, and for that three I know I needed to do like a lot of research and all that, and it was a learning curve for me, and I really understand it and I really enjoyed it. But that's what I'm saying. I just want to point out that this is what it is for us beginners who are looking for good first issues. We don't have that luxury like more advanced programmers do have.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I mean, and I can use. Thank you, by the way, for contributing to BioDrop. It was always great to geek out with you on that. But to use BioDrop as an example, you're absolutely right. When the project started out, it was a React project. I don't want to say just a React project because if you're new to it, it is hard and scary, and I still need to learn lots about it. But it was a React project. And then we moved to Next, so now we have a bit of a framework running a library, a bit more kind of server side as well as client side coding, and then we wanted a database. So then we added Mongo, and so now if someone wants to contribute and they want to run the project locally, then now they need to not only have Node and the right version of Node and understand JavaScript and front end and back end and Tailwind CSS. They now need to have a database. And so, for example, a few items we're discussing at the moment, people are suggesting why don't we have full text search in Mongo or another service or another library, but then it starts making it more complicated and the barrier to entry starts becoming more difficult. And so one thing that there's actually a pull request done by the community, which is great, but it hasn't been merged because we're unsure about it. And it was great to see the example. So we want to have the feature of full text search, which I think will be useful to the project, but it only runs on I think the enterprise version of Mongo. So it only works on Mongo Atlas in the cloud, which is what we have for the project when it's deployed. But if you're running it locally, it doesn't work. So in this pull request, they have got search. If it's deployed, it runs the full text search. If it's locally, it uses some other code just to do a more of a kind of more basic search, but it still works. But then we're thinking, wait a second, now we've got two types of searches. So if you're testing it locally, you're not actually testing the search that would happen in production. So we haven't merged it because we actually don't think we thought it was a good idea, but when you look at it, we actually maybe don't think it's such a good idea. And those are challenges that as maintainers we have because excuse me, we want more features, but then we need to think, well, it's more for us to maintain. It's harder for people to get the project running. And so, it's difficulty. I had someone say, can I have a look at their project? And what recommend, I won't mention the name, but what open source project, it was an open source project and what recommendations would I give to it? And after an hour, I couldn't set it up. And I said, well, you want me to have Mongo, you want to have Memcache or Redis, one of those, I can't remember one of those caching servers, and you wanted Elasticsearch, and you wanted this. And I was like, I'm setting up so many things, and I need to get full app working. I need tokens on GitHub, same with BioDrop, you need that as well to be able to log in. And then they wanted tokens on Stripe, and I was setting up to all these services, and it was really, really complicated. But needed for a real world project as well. So it's kind of finding that balance. And I don't know the answer. I think again, it's a really good discussion to have because real world projects, if you're to work on a company's project, you would probably need to set those up as well. Good documentation helps. Maybe videos help as well. I know they get out of date a lot quicker and it's a lot harder because on the BioDrop project, I did try to create videos for the contributing guide, for the getting started guide, but unfortunately, the videos get out of date very quickly, and it's you can't really kind of edit those. Let's say you would have to re-record them, then re-edit them, and all the rest. And there's a lot of time and expense and so forth. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'd love to hear from other people. I see lots of people waiting to come up on stage. We are going to start winding down shortly as well. It's an hour and a half. We've been going already. Time flies when you're having fun. But do follow people that are on stage. So we can do more Twitter Spaces as well, especially this month. And do check out the awesome people we have in the audience. But let's continue for a few more minutes because I know there are some hands up. I think to Ego, I don't know if I answered your question. I'm hoping other people can feed back to that as well. But I think it's an ongoing discussion. I don't think we will solve it now, but hopefully we can start the discussion now, and we can keep kind of chipping away at it and improving it. Because I don't know the answer, but I would love to learn more about it myself. So I think hands up next, I think was Kelvin. Kelvin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eddie. The question is a really, really good one. And um ego or ego, I understand the frustration really. Right? Like you just want to get your hands dirty and just contribute to stuff. So this is how I think about contributing, right? And I think it will help solve the frustration. Like I mentioned, the first thing you have to do in order to contribute is to understand, right? Like I know the urge to just want to, land your first PR. It's very, very gratifying. But I've been doing open source for a while, and I know a lot of open source guys. Even Eddie can actually attest to this. You, the people that we see, I will celebrate as amazing open source folks are folks that are doing the stuff they are interested in. It's just the truth of the matter, right? Like because Mart, your mic is not muted. So if you just want to contribute, that's fine. So again, it comes to motive and what you want to get. Right? Look, I've been doing sales for 5 years before I was able to make that sales mongo PR, right? I'm not saying wait for 5 years, but the point is, what do you want to get out of open source? Right? Like I know people like Daniel Rowe who have been building packages for as long as possible before they became the lead maintainer of Noxt. All right. So it's all about what do you want. Right? If the end goal is just to like, hey, I contributed something, then that's fine. You could just go for the I don't want to say easy projects, but any project that is being used by a lot of people is fairly complex. There have to be a learning curve. And that's why I said you have to start from understanding and being a user of the said thing. Because I would not want to take a PL from someone who doesn't use the project. That's just the truth of it. Because you don't really understand the context, you don't know the tool, you're not a user, you don't have a real world use case for it, but you just want to land a PL because of landing a PL. Right. So again, all the open source people I know, everyone, they are working on projects that interest them. And that does not mean they have to hit the ground running. No, that's why there's a learning curve and it's fine. You using the project is part of your open source journey. So you- you're not being able to contribute on day one. It's not a bad thing. All right. Like they are still part of the view code base that I read, and my eyes are just twirling like, what is this? Even the sales code base up to today, there are parts I don't still understand. All right. So it's just the learning is part of it. It's not a minus from it. Okay. So be the user of the project, having because that's the only way you can do this thing for long. Because if not, you just, like I said, your goal. If you want to like contribute on this project, then to the next one, it's totally fine if that's what you want. Right. But for the long term people that I've seen doing this for so long and they actually made a career out of it, it's all about interest and just massive understanding of the thing. So what do you want out of it, then that would determine the path you will take. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you so much for sharing. See some more hands up. Graham, over to you.
Yeah, so as you said, you're slowly winding down. I'll ask a simpler question than the last one. Hopefully this one we can get a quick answer to. Let's say you're working on something and you enter a project, there's a gigantic error. I'm obviously talking about accessibility because what else would I be talking about? And it's too much resource to fix that in one go. What's the best practice for like doing a hot fix for something and then revisiting it in the near future? Do you close the current issue with the PR and then raise a new one? Do you add it to a roadmap? Are there different ways to handle it? Like, what's the accepted best way of handling a scenario where you can't physically fix something now, but you can at least make it better and do an incremental improvement without it falling off the radar?
Interesting question. So let me just clarify that I understood that correctly. So you're saying that there's because you said incremental improvement. So I'm trying to think here. I would try and break things down as small as possible, so it's enough to add value. Yeah, Graham, go ahead.
I'll make it simpler. Let's say that you go onto a website and they've built a particular component. That component is, sorry, I'm just going to say it's trash. It's terribly designed. There's a way you can make an incremental improvement now, but ideally you want to completely redesign it in the future, or there are 2 or 3 steps to improve it. So what's the accepted best practice for doing that in terms of making sure that it stays on the radar and you can work towards it without having to do a gigantic 20,000 line PR, for example?
Good. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now. I definitely wouldn't do a 20,000 gigantic PR. That probably wouldn't get reviewed very well and probably wouldn't get it merged, and because it would stay open for so long, and then it would have loads of conflicts and all the rest. So, smaller pull requests are definitely better. I would say if you could do it in three stages, for example, three issues could be raised for it, and then they could be dependent on the other one. But what we do, for example, on BioDrop is usually someone raises the issue, and then we discuss it and see if it can be broken down, and then we edit the description. The author or the maintainer edits the description and moves the second or third or fourth steps into new issues. And then we'll link back to the previous issue and say it's dependent on this, and we'll put a label saying blocked on the second issue. And once the first is done, we can then unblock the second. Yes, incremental, definitely more helpful. And I think a lot of projects, I mean, including ours, we need to get better at making it clear, because people then comment on the second or third one and say, "Oh, I want to work on this." It's like, but we can't. It's blocked. It can't be worked on until the other one is done. And I think this is where I think everyone needs to get better at being concise, but also having enough information. We've got to always give context, and we can't assume someone's seen the discussion on Discord or somewhere else. It's got to have enough context in that issue, in the isolation, but not too much that it's like a whole book on it as well. So it's a tough one, Graham. Do you have any thoughts or experiences, things you've come across that have worked well or haven't worked well as well? Graham, I guess not, but again, that's probably
Sorry,
a discussion.
Can I?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can I talk? Can I answer Graham's question?
Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So when I was building something recently, anytime I want to build anything, I always have the roadmap. I break everything into the simplest part of it, then build everything incrementally. There was something I realized that even when you do that, when you are building, you tend to lose yourself in the mode of building what you are building, because you want to see the end of it, and there is a tendency to want to keep pushing it forward. Like, you have to finish this to push it. So it takes a strong will sometimes to control yourself and just let it go. Just make sure that thing does one thing and push like that, and you keep working on it. Especially when you make sure that it is doing something very well and it is not affecting other things. So because to make something incremental, you feel like it is not done. And that is why when we break it into the smallest components, we can still feel like, oh, at least this part is done. And although it's still hard to let it go, but one has to develop that kind of will to control that feeling. I'm just talking from my own experience. It might not be like that for other people, but for me, after breaking things down into simplest components, and when I built the first one, I feel like this is not done. I have to finish the other one. Then sometimes I'll just say, let me just leave it like that. I want to see what will happen then. So that is why I will leave it. So what I'm saying is there is a need for discipline to just ship the simplest components you have done and see what happens, then continue. So that is the most important part, because the roadmap doesn't really matter if you can control yourself. So that is the most important thing. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Keeping things simple is definitely is a skill that we need to practice, and I think it's something that as we get more experience, hopefully we get better at as well. No, I completely agree. Definitely keep things simple, and we can get feedback from it and then improve it further. We'll do Toby next, and then we'll head to. They've just dropped off. I think it was Nancy, and then we'll probably end the Twitter space there. I want everyone to have more time at the beginning of the week, and we'll do some more Twitter spaces soon. Toby, over to you.
Yes, sorry. Hello, Graham. Hello, everyone. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I was saying hello again. Yeah, I heard Graham's question, and I think his question was more around, if I'm wrong, correct me. I think his question was more around you coming on as a contributor and making massive amount of contributions at the same time or something. Was that the question?
No, so it's quite specific to accessibility work, really,
Okay,
because
okay.
I'm ramping up. The question is basically this: I look at a project. Let's use BioDrop as an example. I look at a project, look at what they've done on a page, and there's a fundamental error. It's not something that's like, oh, we can just quick fix this. It's like you have to scrap it and redo it, sort of thing. But there are things we can do to improve it in the meantime, because that work is gigantic and can't be on the roadmap today. It might be on the roadmap in 9 months, but we can do some little workarounds that might take 15 minutes on a small PR. But I don't want to lose the original problem. So do you just create an issue, fix it, merge it, and then create another issue? Like, what's the way to handle it to make sure that it stays on the roadmap and stays relevant, even if you're working on something?
Okay, okay. Yeah, this is a tough one, but I'm just going to answer based off of my own little experiences with things around issues like that. So issues like that, I think the way to go would be most likely first create an issue that that basically talks about everything that you have in mind regarding the accessibility aspect and all the changes you want to make. Like that issue is going to be like an umbrella issue that basically talks about everything. The maintainers might come by and then look at the issue and be like, okay, this is an interesting one. Maybe you can discuss further with them, maybe join their Discord or something, but keep that issue open there because it's an umbrella issue that basically talks about everything you want to do. And like I said before, so from then on, if the maintainers agree with you and if they feel like okay, this is actually something that if you said you are like maybe you had a workaround, you pitched your workaround to them and they're like okay, this doesn't really break anything or causes any massive shift from the roadmap we have at the moment. I think it would just be a good idea from then if they approve of it and if they feel like it's a go ahead. Sure, you can just like create several other issues, I guess, that then specifically undo direct changes that you need to make. And from then on, you can just do your plethora of changes that need to be made. But I feel like creating an issue that first itemizes or points out the problem that you found out so that maintenance can notice it and then you can have discussions around it first. And then maybe later on you can join your communities to go have further discussions or something to just resolve that. Yeah, that's my own opinion and how I would in my own opinion that's how I actually approach it. Yeah. Thank you.
Graham, right back at you, and I think that's a good place to end the Twitter space shortly. So over to you, Graham.
Yeah, so I love that, and it gave me a thought, and I'd love to just get some quick feedback on it. Sorry, I'm being a bit selfish today, but this is something at the forefront of my mind. What about doing? Because I like what you said there about listing all the different things off regarding a particular issue. What about doing like a mini roadmap as a single issue, which is this is the hot fix for today, raise a different issue. This is the long-term fix, raise a different issue, and then you can leave the original issue open for all time, and then you can always close the long-term issue and reopen it when it becomes relevant, sort of thing. What about handling it that way, so that there's a way of tracking the progress? Because, like I said, it's an unusual scenario to be in where you do a hot fix on something, but that's not the end of it. That's like just the sticking the sticky plaster over the top of it, not the actual fix, if that makes sense.
To be honest, Graham, I don't think it is. Well, I don't know what word you just used, sorry, but it happens quite often. In that you kind of have an overarching epic, and then in that epic you have kind of, if I use the agile term, you have kind of like the stories or the tasks that people work on. So we have got a label where we raise an issue and we say it's an epic. So the epic doesn't actually have any like pull requests against it. each pull request will go against another issue, but this epic kind of has a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, however many other issues linked to it. So the epic might say, I don't know, for example, let's I can't think of an example right now. But you'd have an epic it's a big piece of work that's not going to be done by one person. It's not going to be done by one pull request. It's going to go on for a while, which is not always great, but it does occasionally happen. And then in there, you'd explain a bit about it and have step one, and then it would link to the issue, and then kind of point two is going to link to the next issue, and you can do checkboxes in Markdown, and I think that's really useful. And you can kind of tick them off, and then if you include a link to the issue, GitHub also like renders the state of that issue in the description of the parent issue, as it were. So it will be it'll have like an icon in front of it, red if it's closed, or purple if it's merged, or just green if it's still open. And then I find that really useful. So yeah, so we have the epic label. We don't do it that often, but sometimes, like you're right, it is needed, and that's how we approach it. But we haven't used it in a while, and I suppose that's a good thing. But it sounds like there are some accessibility improvements we need to make, and I do want to log those because we do want to redesign the app after Hacktoberfest for and upgrade the next version as well to like app directory, and we're just talking through that at the moment, and that causes lots of conflicts of any open pull requests. So we're going to kind of clean up from Hacktoberfest in November, and then move on to that. It's going to be quite interesting. Okay, there are no hands up at the moment. It's probably a good place to end this Twitter space. Thank you all so much for taking the time to geek out with me and talk about open source. I love talking about open source. When I was speaking to a conference organizer yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday actually, on Sunday, which is quite strange. But they said, if we give you a slot for 45 minutes, is that too long for you to talk about open source? I was like, well, actually, it's too short for me. I need like 2 days. Yes, thank you all so much for on the Monday taking time out of your day to come geek out with us, share your challenges, share your tips, share your ideas. Really appreciate it. I'm going to be talking just for another 5 more seconds so you can all follow the amazing people we have on stage, also the amazing people we have in the audience. Apologies for Abdul Hamid for not bringing you up on stage. We will next time, and Apollo and there's other people requesting to come up on stage. Do check out the people on stage, also the amazing people we have in the audience. We have Heather, Christina, Nancy, Mikhail, Chrissy, Jacob. Go check them out. Too many to list, but thank you all for being here. And if you want to geek out with me on open source, well, you know where I'm going to be. I'm full-time on the BioDrop project in EddieHub, so you can catch me in the EddieHub Discord. I'll hopefully see you there. But there are so many other awesome projects. We've pinned a few to the top as well. Do go check them out. So many great projects, and you can collaborate and geek out on multiple projects. Just don't pick too many, because then you'll just be doing good first issues all the time, and you want to kind of get a bit deeper into those projects so you can challenge yourself a bit further and maybe one day become a maintainer on the project if that's something you're looking to do. Everyone, have a great week. I look forward to geeking out with you soon. I will be doing a live stream shouting out your open source projects, and I'd love for people to join me on the live stream as well, not just in the chat, but if anyone wants to join me on the live stream, and we can maybe point some things out on the project that people could contribute to. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. I'll mute everyone, including myself, and I'll give you a bit more time to drop some follows and check some profiles out. Thank you, everyone.